What about what about infrastructure as far as airports? Are they going to need longer runways? Is there only certain airports that can handle a jet like that? I mean,
Yeah.
what are some of those kind of hurdles if there are any?
Yeah, we've worked real hard to make sure there aren't any. So any airport that can handle a Boeing 777 can handle an Overture jet. So it works with existing runways, existing jetways, existing terminals. It can run on sustainable fuel, but can also run on today's fuels. So this drops right into the air travel ecosystem that exists today, in a way that Concorde didn't. Concorde
Hmm,
needed an extra long runway, and you had to. It came in really fast, and so it was disruptive for air traffic control. We've been able to solve all those problems.
really? What about the pilots? Do you need specific pilots?
Like any airplane, you got to learn to fly it.
Hmm.
But it'll be like going from a Boeing to an Airbus as far as pilot training. In fact, probably a little bit easier. This is the first brand new airliner cockpit in about 40 years.
40 years since the last time they. That's crazy. So we're talking about these pilots are flying under 40 years of old technology. So it's basically he's saying that pilots are flying airplanes, and when you go into the cockpit of the airplane to fly it, you're pretty much in a time machine that sets you back 40 years.
Wow.
And so, if you come out to
40 years?
it's been 40 years since anyone did a brand new airliner cockpit versus they take the last one and they tweak it. And so we get to do a fundamental rethink. And if you come out to Denver, we got to get you to fly it because we've got a flight simulator, and it's so much easier to fly than a Boeing or Airbus. It's like going from a BlackBerry to an iPhone.
No kidding.
Like we got rid of all the knobs and switches and buttons, except a handful that are really important for safety, and everything.
It's kind of like, yeah, like we're seeing it now with the NASA and SpaceX. SpaceX. Every time you see a SpaceX launch, and NASA's like there observing, they always focus on the two like control centers, base control or whatever it is, and I think they shouldn't really show this, but when they show the live camera in the NASA control and they show the SpaceX control, you could see the difference. It literally looks like NASA stuck in the 70s, and SpaceX is like super futuristic. Super futuristic.
Everything else is a big touchscreen, and it's really buttons, except a handful that are really important for safety, and everything else is a big touchscreen, and it's really nice. And so you don't need to be some hot shit military pilot to fly this thing. It's a little scary to say it, but we're designing it for the worst pilot. Just like there's a worst doctor, there's a worst lawyer, there's also a worst airline pilot, and we want to.
I mean, I don't know if you want to say something like that, but I get what he means. He means, you don't have to like graduate as like the top airline, pilot. What he's saying is more like he's gonna reinvent maybe the pilot education. Maybe you don't have to learn so much pilot information or how to fly an airplane. And maybe it takes let's say, I don't know, 4 years to become a pilot, or maybe less, I don't know. He's saying maybe now it's like a year or maybe less just to fly this airplane if he's redesigning everything.
Design this such that the average pilot can succeed.
What will the experience be like for the passengers? You had mentioned it's all you'd mentioned, I don't know if you were talking about pricing or if is it going to look like business class?
So pricing wise, it'll be like what people pay in business class today.
Okay.
Within, we're nominal fare, I think $5,000 round trip will be very profitable on this airplane. I know that's not for everybody, but that's a pretty good business class price.
Let me see. Let's look up average business class airplane tickets. Price. Yeah. So the average cost, let me see, the average cost of a round trip business class ticket between the US and Europe ranges from $3,000 to $5,000. For longer routes to Asia or Australia, expect to be paying between $3,500 to $7,000 or more. Okay.
It's very profitable. And, you know, we're nominal fare, I think $5,000 round trip would be very profitable on this airplane.
I mean, compared to Concorde, which is charging $20,000, that's a big drop.
I know that's not for everybody, but that's a pretty good business class price.
Is that CONUS? Is that OCONUS?
Round trip across the Atlantic would be about $5. CONUS round trip could be less than that.
Okay.
But on board the airplane,
it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And then if from that price point, if it does kick off and they start producing and then this, you know, just goes crazy, then obviously the prices will start going down.
you know, we wanted. So years before I started Boom, I'd get on commercial airplanes, I'd look around, and I'd think, man, like, what if this thing was designed by Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive? And I just notice the number of seams and gaps from the outside of the airplane to the inside of a window. Notice, I mean, I'll say something you can't unsee it once you've heard this. If you look at the window, the underside of the overhead bin in the window seat on every commercial airplane, you'll notice there's this little brown splotch in every row. Why? So when people stand up, they bump their head, and their hair schmutz gets on the underside of the bin. And you just look all through these things.
No way. There's no way. Let me see. Is that true? Airplane under storage bins hair stain. Let me see this. There's no way. Air. He's talking about under here. I guess he's talking about this part here or something. Maybe. I mean, that actually, this one actually looks like it does have something under there. Right there, there's like a little stain. That is nuts. I didn't even think of that or even notice that. Let me see here. Maybe here. Let me see in this one if you could see it. Or whatever. That's an interesting point.
Things, they're so thoughtlessly designed. And the airplane's made by one company, and the interior is made by another company, and they're kind of just smushed together. And so we said we were going to design the airplane and the interior.
Yeah, by the way, the design on the airplanes are so old. The seats, the bins, and you can't even fit anything in there. And slowly, I mean, you can't even put your carry-on. They're charging you like so much for carry-ons now, and you can't put anything up there. They should just eliminate the carry-on and the bins from the aircraft. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's very old technology, old design, not thought of.
And they're kind of, and the airplane's made by one company, and the interior is made by another company, and they're kind of just smushed together. And so we said we were going to design the airplane and the interior together. And we hired some great designers. We were very careful to pick ones that had never done an airplane before, because we wanted some fresh thinking. Mm-hmm. And we've got something we haven't revealed yet, but it's, I'm pretty excited about it. And it's something that would not be possible if we hadn't designed the airplane and the engine together, and if we hadn't designed the airplane and the interior together. Both of those were big unlocks for the kind of cabin we were able to create.
When's that getting revealed?
Maybe next year. I don't know. We haven't decided yet.
Nice.
I can show you off the record if you come to Denver. We can.
That's cool. If they're designing everything in house, that's actually good because they're they're figuring out almost, he said it, 40 years worth of old technology, old design on these airplanes, and he's able to design all in house, the plane, the engine, the interior, the seating, the comfort, the storage, all within the same company to figure out the best possible flying experience.
And let you walk through a passenger experience lab,
Oh, I'd
put
love
on
to
some
see
VR goggles and see it. It's I think people are pretty excited for it.
And so, how fast are planes flying today? Let's do miles per hour.
Yeah, well, let's see. So I think of these things in terms of percentages of speed of sound, which is it's 75 to 85% of the speed of sound today on a Boeing or Airbus. If you got a high-end private jet, you can go a little bit faster. And then Overture will do 1.7 Mach, so twice as fast.
What is that ground speed?
Around 1200 ish. It varies with temperature a little bit, so it's substantially faster.
Do you feel that when you're in the jet?
No. The one thing you'll notice when you go supersonic is it's slightly smoother, and you'll be at a higher altitude, so you're above more of the weather.
So no, nothing.
It's completely uneventful. On Concorde, they had a big screen that would show you the speed, and whenever it went through one, they'd celebrate and bring around champagne, make a big deal out of it, because otherwise you wouldn't notice.
No kidding.
And the day I'm looking forward to is in the
Yeah, I mean, basically, even when you fly on a regular airplane, you don't notice the speed you're traveling at unless it's like when you take off. When you start taking off and the airplane is running, is rolling down the runway before taking off. That's when you feel the speed, and then it kind of puts you, hits you back. And then once it takes off and it's in the air, you don't really feel anything anymore. So.
I'm sure we'll do that too. The day I'm looking forward to is when the passengers say, "Would you stop with that? I just want to get back to my movie or my book or my email." I want to make supersonic flight boring, but at first we'll make it exciting.
Are any airports? I mean, is there any airports that are giving you guys, or maybe we're not there yet, but are they going to give you pushback about landing, taking off from?
I don't think so. I mean, we've committed that it's not going to be louder than today's airplanes, and we've committed it doesn't require infrastructure upgrades. And so, for the most part, we get calls from airports saying, "Hey, would you tell us what we need to do because we want to welcome your airplane?" And our answer is, sit back, relax. You don't have to do anything. It just works. Wow. Now, of course, I mean, I'd love to redesign airports, but we don't need to. not for supersonic.
Some
anyway.
don't need that. But
yeah, airports is another whole world that needs to kind of. I mean, if we're talking about 40 years, I mean, some airports are now kind of like renovating and everything, but there are some airports that are just stuck in the past. And yeah, 40 years worth stuck in the past.
But, well, how are your competitors handling this, like Boeing and Airbus? I mean, they fly all over the place all the time for work, and I mean, the planes are legitimately falling apart. I mean, one of my recent flights, the overhead luggage bin like fell off in the middle of all the luggage fell on the. It's just if you fly, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
all outdated. Planes are falling out of the sky, and in recent history, I mean, it's just crash after crash after crash, and things catching on fire, things falling apart. I mean, they're not innovating at it. It almost seems like they are purposely not innovating. It's just, let's just reuse this old shit over and over until it falls out of the sky.
I think there's some truth to that.
The other thing is, like, I mean, they have a tremendous amount of airplanes. I think it would be hard to kind of just take all those airplanes and get rid of them and make new ones. Like they produce so many of the same airplanes that it's kind of hard to just wipe them out and then bring new ones in. But yeah, he's right. I mean, it's been like really, really slow in innovation. Like they just tweak stuff.